Hi, and welcome to the first episode of Return of the Retro, featuring me, Randark, and my buddy Ervik.
Hello.
So we're two friends. We met in the military, and it was basically an instant friendship. And we both have a love of video games. So Ervik, what was the first game we played together?
Together, that would have had to have been pretty sure Majestic.
How
I
many
think
people
was
do you think even know what Majestic is?
less than the 12 that's in the title.
For those of you who don't know, Majestic was one of the first games that featured real life interaction outside of a computer for a video game. Literally, we'd be in Best Buy looking at new games, and the game Majestic would call you as part of the way it worked. It was a conspiracy theory game. It was excellent. You should look it up on Wikipedia if you've never played it. Sadly, the servers were shut down shortly thereafter. It was one of the last great things EA ever did.
Yeah, it was one of the first ARGs, alternate reality games, that existed, and it relied on a series of websites, emails. It phoned, it faxed, it used AOL Instant Messenger at the time to message you
Oh, I
with
forgot about that part.
yeah. And there was no real game per se. There was no interface or anything. It was essentially a service you signed up for, and they would email you like clues to this conspiracy, and you go to websites, and by clicking through them, you would advance the game, and you would get a message or an IM telling you that you've solved this part of it, and they took it very seriously, and it was a lot of fun. It's a shame because without those servers, you really just cannot play it anymore.
Yeah, we actually had about 6 guys in the barracks who were playing it towards the end. Each one of us
Yeah, at
paid
least
40
six.
bucks to get access to it.
We might have been the only 6 to 8 people playing it.
Yeah, based on the way how quickly the servers are shut off, I think you're right. But anyway, that wasn't the game we played for this episode. It just wanted to give you a little feedback on where we are, where we came from, how we met, blah 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 blah. Um, but yeah, so we played Chrono Trigger this week. Actually, over the past month for me, I got about almost 15 hours logged into the game. Not even close to the end, I assume. I got stuck for a while on what was his name? Davin?
Was it Davin?
Something like that.
Dalton.
Dalton.
Name is
Dalton. I got stuck on Dalton for a little while and had to go grind 4 levels to beat him, and then shortly thereafter I got stuck on the Gollum sisters, and we'll get into all that when we get there. But I want to say welcome to the live chat. So far the live chat is Geek Culture Andy. So yay, one person came. Thanks, Andy. As you know, we are part of the Geek Insomnia Network. And if you're checking us out and you haven't checked out any other shows on the network, we want to know 2 things. A, why not? And 2, how did you find us? Because that was the only way anyone even knew this was going to happen.
Oh, did I not tell you I set up a pretty elaborate ARG for people to get here? So
Oh,
congratulations if you solved it.
well, I'm kind of impressed. Did it happen to use the 3DS stereoscopic camera?
It might have. It might have.
So, Ervik, what have you been playing?
Actually, a lot of MMOs, surprisingly. Obviously, Chrono Trigger, which is not an MMO, but that was homework. Personally, MechWarrior Online I've been playing a lot of. They just did the new patch that came out and fixed a few problems, and it is fantastic. I revisited, now that it's free, Star Wars The Old Republic, and it is still not fantastic. And I've been playing Neverwinter, which is a D&D MMO made by Perfect World that is okay to middling.
I know you've read a lot of the Forgotten Realms books, specifically the Drizzt, I can't say his name, series.
Pretty
Any
close.
correlation with what's going on in his series with what's going on in Neverwinter?
It takes place during about the middle of this book series. I think you don't really interact with anyone, at least that I've found from the books. But I will tell you that if you want to be a founder of Neverwinter, which you can still do because it's in beta, if you give them $200, you can play as a non-specific Drow renegade who comes to the surface as a good character and has a panther companion.
Are you fucking
So
kidding me?
$200 lets you play as Dritz Stewart, and you get to ride an armored spider. So there's that.
That, that's fucking horrible. I'm sure it's a big money maker for him, but that's fucking horrible. I haven't been to the
Uh,
site to check it out yet. I'm kind of interested, but at the same time, I don't want to be disappointed in it. The way I
it's
was with D&D Online.
it's better than that. It's action combat, which is really, I think, the way MMOs are going in the future. I don't think we're going to have a lot of this WoW hot bar kind of combat anymore. I think it's going to be more in the action sort of realm. So it's moving that way. But it is very much pay to win because it's a perfect world game. So you don't have to pay to win, but you very much can. So
Well, I've been playing a bit of Rift, and I just use that as a transition because it does have hotbar action buttons. If Rift isn't WoW 2, then I don't know what WoW 2 will ever be. It rips off of everything in that thing. I'm only 14 levels in, but I can't believe the similarities in that thing.
well, in its defense, WoW ripped off everything it did first. So I mean,
It didn't rip off Motor City Online.
that's true. No one will ever be accused of ripping off Motor City Online.
Oh. So, aside from that, I've been playing a bunch of games on my 3DS. My wife let me buy a 3DS for my birthday. Not she went and bought me a 3DS for my birthday. I had a restriction lifted for my birthday that I could go spend money on one. So since I went and I bought a few games for it. I've been playing some Sonic and All Stars, Racing Transformed, Luigi's Mansion Dark Moon, and Star Fox 64, and Chrono Trigger. I've been playing on there. I went and bought the DS copy, which plays on your 3DS, and it runs really well. I'm kind of surprised at how well those are emulated. But you can also tell they're emulated because it completely shuts off the 3D. If you want to play any DS games online, you have to load up a separate DS interface for going online, which doesn't interface well with the security I have on my router, so I can't do that unless I change the way I'm going to run my passwords and everything on the router.
Yeah, my original DS did the same thing. If I wanted to go on, I had to go on and limit the bandwidth that my router was providing to something like 300 bits per second, something really low,
Would
to get it to work.
would the DS even take your 300,000 letter password to your Wi-Fi?
No, it would not. Funny enough.
I'm not kidding, folks. It looks like it's a hexadecimal code when you see what
It
his password is.
That's probably because it's a 32-bit randomly generated hex code.
Okay then. Also, I've been playing some Magic the Gathering as part of the late night steamer tournament, and some San Andreas. I bought it a long time ago, back when I was on the ship in the Navy. I played through till you get into the mountainous area, and then for some reason it always stopped playing. And now, so far, I've played up until just about getting off Grove Street, and I guess I've stopped playing for the last couple weeks. I hope I get back to it.
I never got past the fact that eating made you fat, and I would make my characters very fat, and then I would stop playing.
That sounds like real life.
Yes, my avatar has gotten fat.
I picked up a Wii Fit this week, and it told me I was obese. Now,
Oh man, I have to stop you. This is a story I don't think I ever told you. I worked at GameStop for about 5.5, 6 years. I was a manager. Started as a third key, but my first Christmas at GameStop is the year the Wii Fit came out, and I had to. The Wii Fit, if you don't know, folks, has a weight limit.
is it 300 or is it 250?
It's 250, and the newer ones I think go up to 300, but these original ones were 250. And I had a lady come in who was clearly well above 250, and I had the dubious honor of trying to come up with a way to tell her, "This won't support you, you fatty."
I
And
could just see you just saying it just like that to her.
I did not. I was still new. I didn't know that no one was watching and didn't care what I did, and so I was very nice about it. But that that's my fondest memory of the Wii Fit is trying to come up with a nice way to point to the back and go, "You no fit, you breaky."
How quickly did you become jaded and just point to the back and say, "You don't fit"?
It was about another 6 months or so, give or take. When I found out that GameStop did not care about me, I did not care about anything else.
Speaking of people who don't care about you, That's a horrible transition into Kotaku. But we're gonna move into some retro news stories. Not all of them are retro, but they have something to do with it. Um, Kotaku had an article this week. It was "Show us what you love and hate about Mario characters' design." And for me, it has nothing to do with how he looks, like they were trying to portray in their article and everything. And I didn't turn off the audio on this file. I'll go ahead and fix that right now. Stop playing audio, you bastard!
For those of you not watching the video version of this podcast, there's a video to correlate with this.
Yeah, and I apparently suck at life. It won't stop. It won't stop! Anyway, we'll just talk over it because I'm a bad host. Personally, to me, the only thing that's really bad about Mario's design is his absolutely horrendous voice. It is just annoying. Hey, I fixed it. Just annoying to hear him go, "It's a me, a Mario!"
It's not just bad, it's borderline offensive.
I don't even think it's borderline. If you go, I was looking today for this video that we're playing on the channel, and I just typed all of the Marios to get some sort of compilation video, and one of them that came up was just sounds from Galaxy that were basically horrendous Italian that was spoken in his high-pitchy, screechy voice. It was bad. Is there anything else you don't like about Mario?
No, I was never a big fan of the silent protagonist, which, arose out of the especially retro era when we couldn't really make talking, vivid protagonists. So it's not really my favorite thing. I like once they started making Master Chief talk more, for instance. I liked it a lot more than silent Master Chief. But I always thought Luigi had a much better character. He has a fleshed out character, whereas Mario is just, empty. There's really nothing going on there.
Mario's kind of what hole can we fit this round peg into?
Exactly. Whereas if you've played, especially any of Luigi's solo offerings like Haunted Mansion, they do a really good job of giving him a very unique character that has, that you can identify with as being Luigi, not just, red fireball shooting man.
Man thing who can transform into having a tanuki suit. I grow tails, don't worry about it. Sometimes they're wings. I don't know. I can't figure out one way to fly. I have to have 30. Kotaku also had another article on NHL 94. Apparently, real-life NHL players that were featured in NHL 94, there's only 3 left in the league. And those are Teemu Selanne, Roman Hamrlik, and Jaromir Jagr. And I'm going to apologize for the audio that's going to come up again, because when I saved this presentation, it was after I had adjusted the audio. Oh, maybe not. Hey, this one I did right.
Oh, right.
To me, NHL 94 is the single best hockey game ever created. And it is so well loved among its fans that there is still leagues going on with emulators at NHL94.com. If you look it up on YouTube, there are a ton of videos. It's just absolutely tremendous. It's got Mario Lemieux, it's got Wayne Gretzky, it's got Mark Messier. All the greats from that year are featured in this game. One thing that's really amazing, though, is Marty Brodeur is not in this game. He played in the 92, 90, if you're not a hockey fan, this is going to be boring to you, but you'll live. Marty Brodeur is the most prolific goalie in hockey history, and right behind him is Patrick Waugh, who is in this game. But Marty Brodeur is now 40 years old. He still plays with the Devils, and still plays better than 80% of the goalies in the league. It's amazing. And he played in the 92-93 season as a third string for the Devils, mostly on their AHL team, so he got called up for a few games. But he didn't end up being featured in the NHL 94 game, which came out in 93. Which is sad because he became a mainstay in their lineup in the 93-94 season. So although he's still playing, he's not featured in the game. So that's kind of weird. Do you have any thoughts, Ervik?
Not really, because I don't watch hockey because I am from Florida and we don't have ice.
Bullshit.
We do. We have the Solar Bears. What's up, Solar Bears? That's the most. The mascot is a polar bear with sunglasses. That's my favorite thing. There's apparently something like the Tampa Lightning, but I just don't care. Unless you're gonna bring me Timbits, I don't care about anything that comes out of Canada.
You know that Tim Horton was a hockey player, right?
That's why I said you bring me Timbits. Timbits are fantastic, and that's not true. There are good things that come out of Canada. Hockey was not one of them, unless you're talking about Blades of Steel, because that game was awesome.
I remember going to a hockey game with you, and you seemed to really like it.
Oh, you mean cheering real loud and drinking beer? Yeah, who hates that?
And watching fights on ice.
I got really drunk. I don't remember that part.
Then there's another article from Kotaku. 200 people, speaking of Canada, by the way, 200 people played a retro multiplayer no internet madness marathon. There's an awesome article on Kotaku about the Personal Computer Museum in Ontario. Canada has an annual game night, and they bring everybody in for basically a giant console party. But not consoles, more like Commodore 64, Amiga, Apple IIes, this type of stuff.
Don't forget the Trash 80.
The Trash 80. TRS 80. And this year they decided to do something a little different. They created multiplayer games by making controllers. They took 5 doorbell buttons. Each button correlated to a button on the Atari 2600 joystick, either up, down, left, right, or the fire button. And one person held each of the doorbell buttons. And they played games like Pac-Man with this, trying to, if you don't know, the Atari controller interfaces with the Commodore 64 very well. So they were able to get stuff going with that. Apparently it was awesome, and it ended up being, people just trying to figure it out at the beginning of the night to having 6-man teams with a captain running the whole thing.
To me, the most interesting part of this is the games. Most of these games, there was no way to simulate 2 inputs from the joystick. It was either up or left. Well, when they rewired it and they gave everybody their own button, you could press up and left at the same time, and it was interesting because you got to see a lot of wall hacks and errors where these games just were not programmed to handle that. So you get some like Pac-Man chewing through walls and other interesting, fun little tidbits.
I can't imagine the walls are any worse than the power pellets.
That probably tastes about the same.
Then there was another article from Atari Age. A new game has come out for the Atari 2600. Now, if you're not familiar with homebrew for the 2600, it's very prolific. But the latest one to come out is called Rescue Princess. And if you're watching the video, you can see that basically it's Super Mario 1, done for the Atari 2600.
That's pretty awesome. Mario is excellent. Jumpman, if you will.
Jumpman! If you don't know why he's called Jumpman, that was his original name in Donkey Kong. And
was indeed.
It's pretty special that he got, he lost that name, became Mario, and then created his own game with Luigi. And Luigi was then forgot about until, was Haunted Mansion on GameCube?
GameCube was Haunted Mansion, indeed. Also, fun fact, the princess in Donkey Kong, not Princess Peach, so he is apparently down with the ladies.
And Donkey Kong was apparently his pet monkey that went apeshit. See what I did there?
And if you ever played Donkey Kong Jr., that game was actually about you getting revenge on Jumpman as the son of Donkey Kong.
I never played the arcade version. I've only played the 2600 version of Donkey Kong Jr.
It was about the same thing. There were some changes, but overall, you get the gist. You're a monkey throwing barrels at a jumping man.
So yeah, there's a couple other things that came out over the past couple years that the homebrew scene has brought to life. You mentioned them to me earlier tonight. You want to go over them?
Yeah, actually, the homebrew scene is pretty alive and well at this point. It's amazing that people are still, and I'm not talking just emulators or what have you. These are full-on releases that come with original style packaging. for these games. There's the big one recently was a game, if you've heard of it, called Pure Solar, and it is an RPG in the vein of old 16-bit, Super Nintendo era RPGs. It was made for the Sega Master System, and it did really well. They ended up publishing a couple hundred copies, and they sold out. They did a second and third runs, all of which sold out. Then they held a Kickstarter to publish this game for the Xbox 360, PS3, and their stretch goal was the Wii U, which they met. So everyone enjoy that. That canceled, or the Kickstarter ended in about December. So hopefully sometime before the new consoles hit, we're going to see a 16-bit. They said they're going to clean up the graphics, make them HD, but they're still going to be 16-bit era graphics. So we're going to get to see a true 16-bit RPG in the vein of Chrono Trigger come back on these new consoles, which to me is super exciting.
Have you played Evoland yet?
I picked it up in a Steam sale, and I just haven't gotten around to it. I've been playing so many other MMOs, unfortunately.
Evoland is a great game. It basically goes through the history of the genre, from really crappy graphics, monochrome horribleness, into last part I was at is pretty much the same combat system as Chrono Trigger, but graphics are far improved. They've basically gotten into the Sega CD era, and or the Saturn era, and you got to actually wait for CD loading screens and stuff. And it's just hilarious how things advance in that game.
Speaking of Sega CD, do you remember the short-lived live-action video games that came along with the CD era?
My Sega CD is sitting about 10 feet from me. I remember them very well. As a matter of fact, I went and bought Mad Dog McCree.
Excellent. So you played through Sewer Shark then?
Almost all the way. I keep dying towards the end because it gets kind of insane.
Because it's impossible. That game is impossible. I don't know if you know that.
I've had endings where I didn't crash, but apparently I wasn't doing well enough, and I just lose anyway.
Yeah.
That game actually has a big name B-list actor, and I can't remember his name, but if you saw who he is, you'd recognize him.
Oh man, I don't remember. You do remember the game? It was a live-action game that got canceled because it had some suggested nudity in it. It was what was the name of the game? It had you were in a house and you were like setting traps for invaders. It was kind of like a B horror movie you played as a live-action game. It had like Corey Haim or somebody in it. Some
I don't remember that.
Mildly famous 1990s actor. Never going to come up with it. But back to the homebrew, there's also the Dreamcast homebrew is still, because of how easy it is to put whatever you want on the Dreamcast, which, as we all know, did wonders for sales of the Dreamcast console, did much poorly for the sales of Dreamcast games. They have recently released a shoot 'em up for it that actually supports broadband play with a second person.
I really am looking forward to that. I wish I would have known about it beforehand so I could get a copy. But apparently it's going to be available on iOS as well. It's called Redux.
Yeah, the fact that these are still getting made is awesome. Like, that's so. And iOS, it's funny you mentioned that. iOS has really brought back a lot of beloved games. That's actually, I was playing Chrono Trigger on my iPad recently because that is just, you can just get that, $9.
How were the controls on that?
Not the best, to be perfectly honest with you. Serviceable, but I would much rather probably play it on, say, a DS like you did. But it was serviceable, and it only cost $9.
I think I paid $19 for my copy at a GameStop, but whatever.
Yeah, you got the better version, actually, because the iOS one's not actually made for iPad; it's iPhone, so it's not the greatest quality.
The version I was playing includes all. It was originally released on the SNES, and then it was released again on the PlayStation. And when they put it on the PlayStation, they added a bunch of anime scenes to it, and the DS version includes all those. It's kind of weird though, because you'll watch the stuff on the screen, and then it'll be like, "Oh, rewind! Now watch it in anime." One thing I do want to mention before we move on from the homebrew scene is one of the podcasts I listen to, Retro Gaming Radio, which Retro Gaming Radio? No, I'm sorry, that's not right. shit. Oh, Retro Gaming Roundup. That's it. Retro Gaming Radio is a different one. Retro Gaming Roundup released a game called CGE Adventures. The Geek Culture Happy Hour guys went over this podcast back when they were doing season 1, and they release an almost 7-hour podcast every month. It's freaking ridiculous. But when you think about it, if you're releasing a 1-hour episode every, or 1 to 2 hour episode every week, you can get there pretty easily. But they go to a bunch of conventions, and they have a very core group of fans who go to conventions with them. And one of them that they go to is a Computer Gaming Expo in Las Vegas. And one year they had a problem with, they had a bunch of promo CDs, so everyone, people could get as Andy calls it, a podcast of unusual length. People could get some copies of the shows on CD. And they had a deaf guy come up to the table and steal all their CDs. Now, I don't know what kind of special person it is that steals a bunch of promo CDs, but you can't even listen to him, dude. You're deaf. So that's becoming kind of a running joke on their show. And so they ended up banking and making their own game called CGE Adventures. And that released either in April or May. I can't remember which. For the Atari 2600, and I guess it really pushes the hardware limits of it. I haven't gotten a chance to play it, but if anyone's interested, you can just go to retrogamingroundup.com and find the link for it. I think it's $10 for a copy of the ROM, and I didn't see how much a copy of the cartridge was, but it's available. You want to go over what?
Yeah. Well, I was gonna. You talked about right before that. You talked about the cutscenes from the DS version. Those are actually those are ports left over from the PlayStation 1 version that they did. So that's why you get the nice little anime cutscenes in your DS version. But you also get an extra dungeon and an extra ending if you make it that far one day.
Yeah, good luck with that, Pete. I talk in the third person. Speaking of the third person, let's talk about the X-Bone.
Xbox One, man, come on.
No, it's boning us, so it's the X-Bone.
We're gonna get the you out of the way first because you hate it. So I'm gonna save mine for let's hear the vitriol.
What a piece of shit! I mean, seriously, you're gonna sit there and you're gonna have 2:00 in the afternoon show on what's the channel? Shit. It was on cable, and you can sit there and watch. Like, yes, new Xbox is coming out. Now, I own an original Xbox. I have no interest in a 360, because I just don't want to pay the price of the games. But buying an original Xbox, I thought the 360's got to be good because the original's great. And so I'm kind of looking forward to getting it when the prices come down. Well, based on what they're going to release, the prices are never going to come down. And even if they do, when the Xbox One becomes a retro system, or at least an outdated system, you're not going to be able to go on games for it because you're going to need a special code to get everything you want for it. And that's fucking bullshit. I mean, right now I can take Steel Battalion and hook it up to my computer via the Xbox and still play online with it, even though the original Xbox Live for the original Xbox no longer exists. People have found ways to get around that. Now they're going to have to find ways to get new codes for games to get around OEMs, and it's a fucking bullshit. I fucking hate it. It kills anything potentially retro about this that people will want to play it. I have friends who are having kids right now. They're going to grow up with an Xbox One. And then they're going to have to not be able to play it when they're 30, like I am. And that pisses me off.
But that's not the first system's going to have that problem. We're actually going to run into... I'm going to come back to my Xbox One review in a minute. We're going to talk about this. For instance, right now on PS3 and Xbox 360, there are a lot of really good indie-developed titles that are download only. You're talking about your Braids, Unfinished Swan, which is fantastic, Journey, which is, if you have never played Journey, you should. That's just off the top of my head, that's 3 really great games that only exist in the downloadable space. Well, once these servers go dead, which will be a couple more years, but once those go dead, theoretically, those games are gone forever. I mean, unless you have a copy already downloaded to your hard drive and your 360 or PS3 still works, you're just not going to be able to experience those. And these companies may want, and they've already said these the games aren't compatible with the new hardware, so it's not like they can just take Braid and put it up on their Xbox One download service or PS3 to PS4 service. It's a complete recoding, which means the studio, if they want, can go back and do it. But how many of those studios are A, still around, B, interested in it, and porting these? So these games potentially are just going to die with the systems, and that's really unfortunate. And it's not, that part anyway is not really a fault with the systems. It's just the way we're moving with this in the downloadable space is really, on PC it's not such a huge deal, but here it's really going to hurt us in the console space, like trying to get these games again. And there are a lot of games where the game launches broken as hell. How many 360 games you put in and have a day one patch? It happens in the PC space too. Games ship half-assed because they're trying to meet the deadline, and then they get it by the time it goes gold and out to you, they've got a patch for it. But once these servers go down, those patches are unavailable. So if you don't have a patched console, you're going to be playing a broken copy of that game forever. Like, you'll just never have a way to get the fixed version.
That's one of the things I really appreciate about cartridges. Cartridge games had to go out perfect because there's no fucking way to patch them.
And so we're getting into a really new space with this. It's things that we've really never come into contact with, and none of the console makers are really that forward thinking. So it's getting into this really weird space, and it's going to be interesting to see how we get there, how we make all these things work.
Maybe that's one of the reasons why I'm kind of hesitant to buy games on my Android systems, and that I'm afraid I'm not going to be able to play them when even when Android 5 comes out.
Yeah, and same thing with iOS. What happens when iPad 7 comes out? Are you still going to be able to play iPad 1 games? Or they're not. The hardware is going to upgrade, and there's not always backwards compatible with the systems. So let's get back into my Xbox One review. We're gonna swing full circle back around. So what most people are giving it shit for is it came out and they're like, man, you're going to be able to use this as a cable box. You're going to be able to Skype on it. It's going to check your Facebooks. You can twits while you play into games, and people were like, this isn't a gaming console. This is a multimedia console. And that's a valid complaint, really. But at the same time, this next generation of consoles, we're not going to get a leap forward graphically. We're going to get a little bit of a move forward, but we've kind of hitting that limit. So all of your new advances are going to be, look at all these awesome shadows in this game, or look, we put in 6 more points of articulation on this character model, or there's 100 more people in this crowd that are individually controlled. So that there's not a lot of shiny to show off. So they have to push these other things. And those don't really become a problem for me. Like, I'm not going to Facebook from my 360, and I'm not going to tweet when I beat a boss or whatever else they want me to do. But those don't bother me that those exist. What bothers me is when, like has happened on Xbox 360 towards the end of its lifespan, my console is so cluttered I can't find the damn button to start my video game. Like, if I have to dig through 3 pages of Facebook before I can click go, that's frustrating as hell.
Yeah, I can see that being a big issue. But, I don't understand why anyone needs the Xbox to be their all-in-one. First thing I had was the Roku. That got me my Netflix, it got me Amazon if I wanted to use it. And then, I upgraded my TV, and now I have a fucking smart TV that does if I went and bought a camera for it, it would Skype for me. I can do Facebook and Twitter and Get Glue and all that bullshit through my DirecTV box. I got like 3 systems now that can do all this. Why do I need an Xbox One that can do all this? I don't. I need a system that'll let me play fucking video games.
That's unfortunately that's just where they're going. The PS4 is not much better. It was a little. They're keeping that stuff a little more to the background, but you're going to be able to tweet. They've got the little share button built onto the controller to share your screen, which not for me, but some people may enjoy. They've got the Twitter, they've got the Facebooks, they've got your all your different services, if you will, your Netflix, your Amazons. So they're all kind of doing that. But like I said, again, it's more just they're trying to put more stuff in this console to sell it to you. And that, maybe somebody buys it because of that. Maybe they don't. It's hard to tell. But as long as it's a gaming system first and a DVR second, I don't care. So I'll have to see what the dashboard looks like once it comes out and stuff. I'm gonna get one. I love multiplayer gaming, so
well, you've bought every console since the fucking Dreamcast.
And before, mostly.
I don't. Did you end up buying a Dreamcast?
I still haven't played a actual Dreamcast, the console like the hard, but I've played every game that exists on it. Um, so that one I don't actually own, but every other console I have sitting, some of them plugged in, some of them not. I've every console that's pretty much existed aside from a Dreamcast is somewhere in my house, collecting dust or otherwise.
Andy says he's had this awesome all-in-one system in 1994. Let me look up what it's called, and we're waiting for a response. But while we're doing that, there was an article I didn't put into our show notes, but I wanted to talk about a little bit. Have you heard about what Nintendo's doing with the Let's Players?
I haven't. This one's a new one for me.
So, with most every video game now, you can go onto YouTube and watch a Let's Play, basically a full playthrough of the game. It'll usually be in multiple parts. And I've done it for a few games. Right now I'm working on Breath of Death 7, which amazingly was kind of influenced by Chrono Trigger, right back to our start. Yay. And you play through the game, you manipulate the entire game, you create the content with their software package, and you can talk over it. A lot of people spend a ton of time on this, and now what Nintendo's going to do is they've contacted Google, and they're forcing Google to put Nintendo advertisements at the beginning and end of all the Let's Play videos, and they're not allowing the people who actually create the content, the people playing the game, to get any monetization from it anymore.
Yeah, doesn't surprise me, to be perfectly honest with you.
Now, I understand Nintendo's point of view that they created the software and this is their product, but the voiceovers, the editing, all that is done by the person, and now they're getting fucked out of their money. And there's a lot of people who make a lot of money doing it.
I'm sure I'd be interested to see what happens when somebody takes this to court, because thus far I think everybody's been settling or just avoiding it altogether because I'm going against Nintendo. But while yes, the software is you are putting in a lot of your own effort and a lot of your own time, and you're not trying to pull it off as it's your own. So I'm curious to see what happens with that.
I'm wondering if there's going to be a big backlash, because right now basically no one has a Wii U, and I don't even know many people that want one. Excuse me. The system has the same 6 or 10 games it's had since its launch, and yes, the 3DS is going strong, and that's great, but you have this whole new generation system you want people to play, and you're putting gamerly games out on it like Darksiders 2, and now you're going to do this to the people who are giving you free fucking advertising anyway?
Yeah, well, I mean, Nintendo's a little desperate. This is their first misstep really since the GameCube, which people love and I love, but was, financially not considered a success for Nintendo. This is the first time in a long time, like 20 years, that Nintendo has posted a loss for a quarter, was the Wii U launch. So they're kind of reeling. They're really not sure where to go. They released, I don't know if you saw this, they released email to all the people who had registered Wii owners. Like if you used your email to sign up for their channel, the Wii shop, you got an email. And this email told you that, hey, we released a new Wii U. We weren't really clear that it's a new system and not a controller you can just buy for the Wii. And that's a pretty big admission of guilt that you really, really missed on your marketing. Like, if you have to come back and tell everyone that already owns your old system that, hey, guys, we made a new system. I'm not sure if we marketed that well, but here it is. And it's not just an attachment for your current Wii. Using the same name, first of all, was not a great...
No, that was fucking stupid.
Really bad choice. So we'll see what happens with it. A lot of companies have really backed out of publishing for the Wii U because of poor initial sales. Games that were promised launch window, like Pikmin 3, still nowhere to be seen. That it's still not there. And months later, Wii U is not a flop yet, but it is definitely not a success either.
One of the things that's really lacking, I mean, they stepped up and they made significant advancements in technology with the motion controls, and then they did it again with the 3DS, putting 3D in your face without glasses. And then they took a step back with the Wii U. Here's a tablet in your hands with game controls on it. Now, I think that has great potential, but it's not pushing an envelope at all.
It's really not.
Anyway. You been up to anything in real life aside from video game shit?
No, I started this job a few months back. That's got me keeping me pretty busy, but that's about it. Trying to get settled into this and play some video games. About all I do with my free time.
I started a new job too about 6 months ago now, and it's given me all the free time in the world. If I'm at work, including driving to and from, for more than 4 hours, it's a long day for me. It's fucking great. I love this job. But as part of
Uh,
that, I need to fill time at home, and my father-in-law got me a second cabinet for my house. I'm going to turn it into Steel Battalion. I've started looking at it. It's going to require a lot of work because it looks like it's an old arcade cabinet, but I can't figure out what game it was because it's got like four different pieces into it. And I think someone had turned it into a main machine based on the keyboard that's been left in the bottom of it.
Makes
And
sense.
all of that's been stripped. There's a monitor mount in there for an LCD monitor that's hooked. It looks like it's been put up with Bondo. Yeah. And the controls aren't quite big enough to support my Steel Battalion controller, so I'm going to have to figure out exactly how I'm going to get that on there. But that's the goal, to put my Xbox in there and to get Steel Battalion working in an upright console.
That would be pretty awesome. I want to start a MAME cabinet. I need to get around to it. I keep putting it off. There's always something new around the corner, so I need to get into that. I'll have to get you after this and figure out.
I put mine together for about $600. I used it's still running XP. It's not a powerful enough PC to run. Actually, it's the old PC way I used to lug through the desert for when we did our 1942 LAN parties.
With your nice shoulder straps.
Yeah,
Those are very,
I
those
still
are
have that picture.
those are very stylish, my friend.
And then it's got some old peripherals that I hooked up to it. So it's got a steering wheel and it's got an analog joystick, so you can play some of the flight sims and shit. But for $600, not including a PC, I mean, I'm sure you just said you rebuilt one. Maybe you got an extra one now.
I've got about 6 carcasses laying around here.
Yeah, you can put one. You can put a PC together anyway and get close to what you need.
That's a good idea.
Yeah. So anyway, on to our topic of discussion today, and that's Chrono Trigger. If you haven't figured it out by now, Chrono Trigger is a role-playing game. As a matter of fact, it is the role-playing game. General consensus is that this is the best RPG ever made, and that's based on a bunch of critical reviews, top 10 lists, blah, 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 blah. It was released in 1995 for the Super Nintendo, later ported to the PlayStation and the DS, iOS, Android, a couple other Japanese-only ports. And it was produced by Kazuhiko Akoi and designed by Hironobu Sakaguchi. It's RPG. It's a JRPG. It plays like one. It looks like one. It is the prototypical one when people go to make ones now. They look at Chrono Trigger. What did they do right, and how can we make it better? What are your thoughts on this, just in general?
I mean, Chrono Trigger is quite honestly, as you've already said, the best, in my opinion, and most people's RPG of the 16-bit era, and honestly, of almost any era. It had like 13 unique endings. It had like something close to like 50 boss battles, depending on what order you went through. It was, they were really proud at the time of how many different programming options they gave into this game, like how to influence the various endings and stuff. It also was one of, if not the first game to feature the New Game Plus, where you could take your save when you finished and start again. And not only did it feature it, but there are certain endings that you can only get through New Game Plus. So it was a lot of firsts, and it not credited with a lot of them, unfortunately, because like the game with the first multiple endings is Bubble Bobble, if you can count that. People, whatever. It was not multiple endings, guys. But it innovated in a lot of areas. It tried to tell a truly unique story. It spanned multiple genres in the storytelling. It just an all-around fantastic game.
Andy writes that as a proud citizen of the internet, he is obligated to stand up for Final Fantasy VII. I've avoided all the Final Fantasy games my entire life until there was one that came out on the Wii that was kind of, well, it was really shitty. It was what was it?
Oh, you
Final
talk about the
Fantasy.
Kingdom Builder
Yeah,
one?
that one.
That's not a Final Fantasy
That's the
game.
only thing I've done in
Like,
Final Fantasy that I've ever done. The only thing I've done besides that is watch a Tal Bachman video based on one of the games. It was fucking sad to
Paul
watch.
Bachman? You mean like the
She's
girl?
so
She's so
hot.
high.
Yeah, that one.
Oh, that hurts me inside. Uh,
They took a bunch of the
uh,
cutscenes and put them together, and it was well produced. I'll tell you that.
that's hilarious. It's almost as sad as that I remember who that guy is. Um, I will respond to Andy and the entire internet and say that Final Fantasy VIII was better than 7. Squall was better than Cloud. You heard it here first. 8. They had swords that had guns in them. They were called gun swords.
That was original.
7, it was all right, I guess. I mean, it had a big dude with a machine gun arm. Had a girl that died. I mean, that's good for it, right?
You know, I'm actually surprised after watching that video, I didn't go ahead and start playing all the Final Fantasy, because you know what happened when I watched the video for Styx Renegade put to Trigun.
Yep.
I went out and I bought the
Hi
entire
guys.
Trigun series without knowing anything about it.
The show was fantastic.
The first three quarters are until it gets really fucking weird in Japanese at the end. It starts talking about, life is blah 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 blah. Basically, when they go up in the spaceship, after that, it's all fucked.
Yeah, well, I mean, most animes have the fantastic endings, known for them quite well. Um, so- yeah, I like the card system in 8 a lot, but we can't devolve into 7 and 8. We'll get there eventually. We'll have to do a whole series of you playing Final Fantasy, catching up to the
Oh
modern
god,
era.
you realize that's gonna take me like 300 hours a game. That's gonna suck.
More than that, there's what? Let's see.
Should I tell my
Ones you
wife we
need to
need a
play.
divorce now?
Oof, yeah, it's that's a lot. So, what's you recently played it for the first time? What battle system did you pick? The active or the weight? If you don't remember, no, guys, there are 2 battle systems in this game. So
Well,
I'll let Randark talk about them for him.
Well,
for you.
I picked the active system just because, based off what I could read on the screen, it was much harder. I didn't change the video. I'm an idiot. We'll move on to the Chrono Trigger video, and you'll actually be able to see where you choose either active or weight battle systems. In the active mode, enemies will attack even if you're not ready, and in the weight mode, you actually have time to choose. Basically, what that means is when you get into a fight, everyone goes into their position on the screen, and everyone's like, "Yeah, ready to go," and just ignore me. Anyway, so everybody gets ready to go, and then the timers start going. And once your timer fills, you can choose what that character can do. Now, in active mode, when your timer gets filled, everyone else's timer still moves while you're choosing what the fuck you want to do. In wait mode, once the timer hits full, it waits until that character has chosen what it wants to do. So it's a little easier to play wait mode. It's a lot more strategic than it is Twitch. I wanted to play something a little harder, just because I like to play games a little harder sometimes, and so I chose active.
The active is, this is one of the few, if only, games to allow you to choose between 2 different combat styles in an RPG, and they're 2 great styles. There's actually still a lot of debate over which is better. The weight style is really indicative of early RPGs. Your Final Fantasy 3, Final Fantasy 2, or depending on if you like American or Japanese numbering, 4 and 5. Those had, your very traditional weight system, which is you pick something, the enemy goes. You pick something, the enemy goes. Your active system is what most RPGs have evolved from today, because this modern era, like go, go, go. So you've got every Final Fantasy game after like 6 has all been, 7, 8 have all been this way, where every character has a timer and different characters have different speeds. They go at different times. And as soon as your character's timer is up, you have to pick something for them and you have to attack. So this is one of the few games that blends both of these, unless you choose which way you're going to play it. Personally, I've done both. I think this game is built around the active mode, so it works a little better that way. But I like the option. I like being able to choose how I'm going to play my RPG. I think that's really nice.
In the original, were you able to hot swap it like you are in the DS version?
I don't remember. It's been so long, and I played on the iOS recently. I believe you could always switch between them at will, but it's just been so long. I can't give you a definitive on that
Oh,
one.
you know what? It's right there on the screen right now. Do I go through all the choices? I'm watching my video to figure out if I can. Yeah, battle speed. Maybe it's that. I'm not sure. Maybe you can. Because when I played the emulated version, I played the Super Nintendo version. And right now in the video, I'm looking through the options menus and just figuring out stuff like I usually do when I start a new game. But then when I played in the DS version, I noticed you had the option to switch it to wait mode. There were a lot of times I probably should have put it in wait mode, like when I was playing in front of my TV while my wife was watching a show, and she would ask me a question, and I would have to pause it, which is fine. I don't mind pausing a game, and then I talk to her for a little bit, and I get back into it, and I'd be like, "Oh shit, what did I need to do? Oh, I'm dead."
Yeah,
And
there are some brutal battles in Chrono Trigger if you're not paying attention.
so yeah, so we. Blah, blah. I'll learn to talk someday. I'm a bad host. Anyway, so what else about this game really is new to the genre when it came out?
Well, like one of the big things is that how many endings that you got. There were in the original version something like 13, uh, and then they added one in the DS version. But and they're each ending is a variation on another ending for the most part. So there's really about seven that double, six that double, where the game changes and the ending changes based on varying actions you took throughout the game, which is super cool. You also get to choose when you fought the final battle. You could fight it in this game features a lot of time traveling, and you could fight the boss in almost any time period in any jump, and vastly changed what happened throughout the game. And it was really new, and it might not have been the first, but it definitely is the most famous to bring this around.
Do you know of any other games that were using time travel like the way this game does when it came out?
At the time, no. If there is one, I'm not aware of it. It's it was one of the first that let you, especially at will, time travel like this game eventually lets you do. Where most Final Fantasies let you travel on the open world map, this game lets you jump between varying time periods. And a lot of times it wouldn't give you direction on which time period was next. You had to kind of intuit where you needed to go to do the next step.
That was part of it. Part of the game that I didn't like is a lot of times it was hard to figure out what exactly you're supposed to do. I ended up in the future, and I'm like, hey, it's the future. It's dystopian. Great. Whatever I'm supposed to do obviously got fucked up. And then I go through and I'm talking to people and I just had no freaking clue what to do next. Eventually, I had to get a guide.
Sorry, I was busy watching you try and ring the bell at the beginning of Chrono
Oh
Trigger.
god, yeah. I was like, what the fuck? How do I get it to go? I figured out how to hit it, but there. I did it successfully there. But I couldn't remember how to get it started again at first. I'd walk up to it and like, go. I'm pressing A, do something. If you don't know, there's the beginning of the game starts off and you're at a Millennial Fair and you can earn silver points, which you can turn into gold. What else could you use those for? I didn't really explore that too much.
If you got enough of them, I believe there was an item you could get that wasn't super relevant in the grand scheme of things, but I think you could earn something with those points.
So let's go into the story a little bit, since it's pretty relevant to what the part of the story I want to talk about with what video is playing right now. So as I said, you start off as Chrono without an H because you can only have 5 letters.
You know what? It occurred to me after you actually needed to get silver points. If you didn't earn enough at the beginning, you had to come back here at a certain point because you needed the Doppel doll to. It was part of a resurrection thing. You needed to revive someone, so you actually had to play that.
Huh? That was I don't remember ever having to do that, so it must be well after where I am.
You have to have fought Lavos for at least the first time. I don't know if you've done that yet.
Nope, I haven't. I haven't met Lavos yet. I know I'm close because I'm entering the Ocean Palace. For people who know where we are, where I am in the game, I'm fighting the Gollum sisters, and I'm stuck again.
Well, I'm gonna. I would normally give something like a spoiler tags, but this game was made in 1995, and we're gonna talk about it. So, the Doppeldoll was actually used. This game was actually really unique in that after the first time you fought Lavos, your main character dies. He just dies, gone. And through a series of events, you have to go back and create an item that allows you to go back to the moment in time where your hero dies, Chrono, and you freeze time and save him before the moment of his death. And that's actually a pretty integral part of the game. One of the few times, especially early on, where your character is just murdered.
There was another part in the game. I know we're gonna go over the story, but I wasn't gonna talk about this. But my entire party just died, and the game didn't end. I was like, wait a minute, I just got my ass kicked. Why am I not dead? I don't remember exactly what happened, but the game continued, and they all got revived, and I just kept going. It was pretty nice.
It's I believe that isn't that the first time you fight? Is it Magus? I think it's Magus. Or something.
I don't. I honestly can't remember. I've been playing this game for 15 hours over the last month, so a lot of it's kind of not
yeah, there's
fresh in my head.
definitely a lot going on in there, but so that's another thing where the story is pretty unique.
Speaking of unique, as you watch the video right now, you'll see there's a girl following me. That's Meryl, as you call her.
Moral.
Marl, Meryl, whatever. Who the fuck cares? She's a pain in the ass. Anyway, so the game starts, you get to the Millennium Fair, and you're looking for your friend Luca, who has a new invention. And you start going through the fair trying to find her, because, directions can't be real easy. And you end up crashing into Meryl. Meryl? Is that okay? Anyway, you crash into her and she drops her pendant. And I don't know if you were watching, but in this video I went and I tried to sell the pendant, and there was a little girl with a kitten who I tried to... I couldn't find the cat, I just found the little girl. And I was like, huh, you lost your kitten, fuck you. Those things actually came back to be pretty bad for me later in the game. After you find Luca, you get transported back in time, and the queen has been... was missing, but now she's found because you've followed Meryl back. I'm skipping over a lot. Let me read what I wrote because it'll sound a lot better. So it's a teleporter, and as Chrono, you volunteer to go through it first. Actually, you told me something special about that scene. If you choose the right side teleporter,
only in New Game Plus mode. You have to in New Game Plus.
Oh, okay, in New Game Plus.
If you take that right teleporter, and this is the very beginning of the game. You will be teleported directly to a final boss fight in which you have to fight the final boss of the game without a party. It's just you. And one of the special endings is to beat that boss by yourself.
That's really interesting to me. I'm glad you told me. I was under the impression you could do it right at the beginning. I'm like, how does anyone ever win that fight?
Oh, you couldn't. It's hard like when you were leveled to like 99.
So anyway, so you go through and everything goes great. And then Meryl wants to try it. And she hops up, and her pendant reacts to the teleporter and creates a time warp, and she gets sucked through. So Luca gets the crowd out of there, and then begs you to go through with her to find Meryl. So you do, because if you don't, then there's no game. So you go through, and you go back in time, and you find out you're in the Middle Ages, and the queen has just been found after she'd been kidnapped. So you go and you try to talk to the queen, and you find out that it's Meryl, and you're like, oh, that's kind of weird. How did you become queen? Then you leave the room and you talk to Luca, and Luca reveals that Meryl is actually the princess of your realm. And for some reason, you're too dumb to realize that. But Luca helps you out, makes you a little smarter about that. Then all of a sudden, Meryl disappears, and Luca tells you it's because the real queen was never found, and since Meryl is a descendant of that queen from 400 years ago, Meryl doesn't exist because the queen's killed. So your quest is then to go find the queen. As you go find the queen and bring her back and therefore bring Meryl back, once you go back to your own time, you're arrested. And that's for kidnapping the princess. Now, you had nothing to do with that, but, what are you going to do? So you then have a trial, and in your trial, they bring back the things you did when after you met Meryl. And if you tried to sell the pendant, that's evidence against you. If you didn't help that little girl find the kitten, that shows that you're incompetent and an asshole, so that goes against you. I actually ended up losing that trial and got sent to jail. So when I started playing on the DS version, because I wanted to record the video, so I needed to play that through an emulator. When I played the DS version and replayed all that stuff, I decided, well, I won't even talk to the little girl who lost her kitten, and I won't try to sell the pendant, and we'll see what happens. And I won my trial, but I ended up getting sent to jail anyway.
Good for you. Yeah, you can't not get sent to jail there.
That was
Unfortunately.
that was kind of upsetting. I'm like, but I did everything right, and they said I'm free. The guy who sent you there is a bit of a dick.
Yeah, the king.
Yeah,
He is a little
it
bit,
wasn't the king. It
little
was
bit of a dick.
what was it? It was the helper dude. I forgot his name. The king basically said, "I don't give a shit. One way or the other, as long
Uh,
as my daughter's back, I don't care."
like they do.
So what do you think of the music in this game?
Uh, for 16-bit music, it's really good. People like it a lot more than I do.
So,
It's pretty good.
so
People
you
love the music in this game, like a lot. It's 16-bit music, but then again, I'm not a huge audiophile. As long as the music's not ear bleeding, I don't care. So I probably missed out on a layer here because the music didn't do anything for me.
based on what I read about the music, I thought it was going to be, mind-blowingly great. It was going to hit me, like if you ever played DuckTales for the NES, that music, it's pronounced, it's there, it fits in with the game. It not only is it there in enhancing the scene, but you notice that it's there. But with this game, it was just kind of, it's background music. It fits the scene, but it's not as engaging.
I can see, yeah. I like I said, I fall on basically the same thing. It's music. It's there. It's great. I guess it's not distracting, which I like. You know,
Were there any particular boss fights that you actually absolutely loved?
um, you know, I liked the Magus fight a lot, which is an optional fight. I don't think you got there yet. There's actually a point in the game where you fight Magus, who is another character in disguise, and you get into this whole arc about how he's actually from the Middle Ages. His name was Janus Zeal, and he ended up back in time where he fought Lavos, and he failed, and he got sent forward again in time, and he was trying to kill Lavos, but you think he's a bad guy because he's working with the bad guys to try and summon Lavos so he can fight him. And it's a whole middle section of this game you never got to. But so you get to this fight with him, and he explains all his motivations, and you actually have the option of fighting him or not. And you don't know this until after you make this decision, but if you don't fight him, he joins your party. If you do fight him, he's gone, and it changes the game actually a fair amount. Whether you do that or not. And he's one of the more powerful characters in the game. So, like, the first time I played this, I played without Magus, and I didn't know that, and he makes the game significantly easier.
I was reading, he actually has the powers of like three characters in one, which is when you start getting into the enemies that need specific types of damage, that's going to be really
Yep.
helpful.
Well, he has every form of magic. He has the water magic, the fire magic, and the was it earth magic? The
Lightning.
other lightning. He has all of them in one, and he's the only character to do so. He's super, super, super useful. And like I said, if you mess up the first time with him, it makes the game significantly more difficult. Not unbeatable, but hard. This game is also unique, side note, in the fact that before the internet was even a glimmer in Al Gore's eye, this game let you collect cats. You could win multiple cats. They would sit in your house.
I seem to remember a point in this game. Is there a point in this game that I think I did it, but I don't remember that you start off in bed again with that same beginning chrono?
Yeah.
Okay, so I'm not. I
There's
wasn't losing my mind when
there is
that
a
happened.
spot
Good.
where that happens.
I had complete deja vu when that happened, and then my mind went blank on what I did next. So I couldn't remember if that actually happened or if I'm just nuts. So good, I'm not nuts. Is there anything
Well,
else
the
you
story
need?
is great. Don't let. There are a couple loose ends that the story doesn't tie up, and there's actually a few contradictions. One real contradiction. between what the Dreamstone and Lavos is. They hint very heavily, especially in the sequel to this game, Chrono Cross, that the Dreamstone and Lavos are basically made of the same thing. But that's not possible because in the 65 million BC era of Chrono Trigger, you find a Dreamstone before Lavos ever lands on the planet, and as you know, Lavos is a weird version of Galactus who comes from the stars and eats planets. So theoretically, maybe that could have been a meteorite that preceded his fall, but not really. A little bit of a contradiction, but overall,
So the
fantastic.
meteorite is Silver Surfer. I got
Kind of, yeah.
it.
There is a sequel to this game, Chrono Cross. It was actually a little bit of a trick when it came out because they said it was a spiritual sequel, but it actually is a direct sequel. It takes place, without getting too much into Chrono Cross, in alternate versions. Instead of time travel, it's more like alternate versions of things that have happened. So there's actually a few characters that are just directly, like Luca is directly in Chrono Cross. So if you ever finish this game, you can enjoy the sequel, which is actually pretty good.
I probably will finish it. I've enjoyed it, but my basic opinion on the entire game is it is the longest run-on sentence ever created. Here, well, you need to help her out with this teleporter. Oh, you're going back in time. Well, find the queen so you can save Meryl. Well, you found the queen. Yay! And you saved Meryl. Oh, you're in prison. Get the fuck out of prison. Oh, you're out of prison. Now you gotta run away and you hop in another time portal. Well, now you need to figure out how to get home. Well, now you need to do this. Now you need to do that. Oh, look, now there's a queen who lives on a fucking mountain in the sky who's gone batshit fucking nuts and is building a place in the ocean that you need to go to save and kill Lavos. Hooray! Go do that.
Oh man, it gets way worse once you get to the side missions because eventually you get to the point where the endings start splitting off, and it's a lot of side quests, and all those side quests pretty well determine what happens at the end of the game, one of the 13 various endings, and so yeah, it becomes a whole thing where you go to pretty much everyone's time period and solve mysteries, Scooby Doo like, and you know go about your business. How did you feel about the number of characters in this game? Like the number of party members?
Right now I have 6. I have the frog guy, the robot, Aaliyah, Luca, Meryl, and Chrono. I know Magus will make 7 if I get him, and I'd really like to, based on what you just said. I don't have a problem with the number of characters, but Meryl seems to be a better healer than Frog guy. I can't remember his name. Is it just Frogger?
His name is Frog.
Just Frog? Okay, Frog. Meryl seems to be a better version of Frog if you're using her as a healer. I like her spells a little more that aren't just for healing, as far as the ice spells and that. Frog's a little better if you're going to combine the spells, but I don't really have a use for Aaliyah because she's straight physical damage, and I've noticed a lot of characters don't take a lot of physical damage anymore in the game. Apparently, I was reading...
Get yourself a magic scarf.
Yeah, I could do that. But I was reading she ends up with the most powerful attack later in the game. She gets bronzed fists and punches the shit out of people.
Very, very late in the game, yeah. Frog also gets a really powerful attack later in the game.
The robot was good for a while. When I first got him, when I went to the future, I used him quite a bit. He hits hard, but same thing. He doesn't have a whole lot of magic, and so it's
I love that he has a move called Uzi Punch. Like, that's my favorite thing.
I love that you have to replace his arms to make him stronger, or for his weapons. Oh, we just found this random robot arm in the yard. Here you go. Put it on your robot, and he'll be stronger.
So, wrapping, I want to know if you feel like 7 is like too many, or if you think that's the right amount to choose from to build different teams. Like, how do you like the number 7? Because that's the total. Once you get Magus, 7 is the total number of playable characters.
I wish there was less overlapping between them. Like I was saying with Meryl and Frog, I wish they were a little more separate. I know one's ice and one's more water, but there's no discernible difference in how the damage is laid out. They're both considered water attacks. I wish that maybe ice was its own separate category, and then it would be a little better for me. 7's not a bad number, though. It gives you options. If something's not working in a fight, you can change it up. And since you can, yeah, there's only three in a group, but you don't have to go all the way back to the end of time to the hub to change out. It's really not that big a deal whether you have three or seven, whatever, however many characters you bring in. So I'm not. It didn't bother me that there were seven. I didn't have an issue with there only being three either.
So I'm gonna. Chrono Cross is known for one very specific thing, pretty much, and what it did. It was very unique in, and that's the number of playable characters. Take a guess at how many characters Chrono Cross, the sequel to this game, had.
I'm gonna say it probably went more than double, and there's 15.
There are 40. There are
Oh
40
my
unique
god!
playable characters. You can't get them all in one playthrough, but there are 40 different characters in that game, and some people love it, some people hate it. So it took. So seven is a much, to put it in perspective, is a much more reasonable number of characters to play with.
Yeah, I would say so. I wouldn't know what to do with 40 characters. It's like when I go to Beers of the World and there's, literally 500 different types of beer to choose from. I end up just going back to, oh, I want some Guinness. I'll go with that.
Man, I'm gonna. You
I
can
know
have
you
all the
hate
Guinness you
Guinness.
want.
How fucked up is it? When you met me, I was drinking wine coolers, and by the time we got separated in the military, I'm drinking Guinness.
It was an evolution I was proud to have started.
So overall, what do you think of this game?
I love this game. This game brings back every nostalgic thought I ever had. I went back to play it, and I thought I would not enjoy myself because I've played all 13 endings. I played it on multiple systems. I played the PS1 version. I played the SNES version. Um, I still love this game. This game is my favorite 16-bit RPG. The only thing that even comes close is Secret of Mana, and that's a whole different game. It plays very different, even though it looks very similar. So I have a lot of love for Final Fantasy 2 and 3. People tend to love those as much as, but this to me is the perfect game. This is a 10 out of 10 for me, bar none.
For me, I so far I give it about a six. As far as RPGs go, I have never played through a JRPG. I've played through an American JRPG in Cthulhu Saves the World, but I've never finished a JRPG. I've come really close with Dragon Warrior on the NES. Several times I've gotten to the last dungeon there in the underneath the throne, and then something happens and I lose my game. Right now I haven't lost it. It's on my tablet. I just have no desire to go finish it because I got to do a bunch of grinding, and that's usually what turns me off of these games is having to go back and grind. To me, there should be a standard level of progression. There are this many fights before you get to the boss. Those should level you up enough that the boss fight is difficult, but not impossible. And so far, when I fought Davin and now the Gollum sisters, same things. I need to go back and grind a couple levels.
It's and I'll be honest, that does bother me a lot. The grinding. It's actually one of the reasons I never maxed out Final Fantasy 13 or 13-2. I didn't get all the achievements or anything, which I tend to do because of all the grinding involved. But Chrono Trigger had, especially for JRPG, much less grinding than your typical one. You would have to fight a couple extra fights maybe, but if you were really exploring, you would usually be of the right level. Especially once you get Magus, he's just so good. If there was more, it would probably hurt my rating, but I think it's to a minimal amount, so I kind of like it.
My rating is it has a lot of capability to go up after, excuse me, as I continue the game. I think I'm just getting to where it really gets good as far as the storyline goes. Like I said, so far for me, this has just been the big run-on sentence, but things start to seem like they're coming together. So I will finish it. When is another question, but I'm looking forward to it.
It all does tie in. The story comes full circle. It works really well, and I think you'll enjoy it once you get through there. And Marl does start a grand tradition of princesses in hiding. Followed up with Zelda in Majora's Mask, and Ocarina of Time, where she plays Sheik. Things like that. It's one of the first of that genre of hidden princesses.
Yay for hidden princesses. I would have always thought that maybe, that was started with Leia, but I guess not.
Not in video games.
No, like not in video games. And she wasn't really hiding being a princess, just Luke didn't know, I guess. But anyway, so what are we doing next week? It's your turn to
Uh,
choose.
Next week is
I'm sorry, 2 weeks. We are a bi-weekly podcast.
bi-weekly. Well, our next podcast, I have chosen everyone's favorite Blue Bomber, Mega Man, the original,
Oh, I
which
thought
is
you were going to say
notorious
Bomberman.
for being one of the best games with one of the worst box arts of all time.
I haven't looked at the box art. I'm
The
gonna look
box
at
art
that
for
right
the
now.
original Mega Man, we'll have to dig up for the live stream next week or 2 weeks, is terrible. It looks nothing like Mega Man. It doesn't convey anything that you'll be doing in the game. It is the worst.
Is it this red thing that I'm looking at? Is that the one? Oh no, that's Mega Man 9. I'm sorry. It was just the first one that came up. Alright, I'll have it for the live stream though. That should be really interesting. So far, I've bought it for my 3DS. I'm going to get videos via emulation for the NES first. I tried to record some this week actually, and I don't have a clue. What I know about the game is it's very helpful to do the bosses in a certain order. What I don't know is what that order is, even where to start. Andy tried to tell me last night on Late Night Steamer, but I quickly plugged my ears and went blah 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 into my mic until he stopped. I felt like an asshole, but I didn't really want to hear that. I want to, at least for the first week, I'm going to try to figure it out on my own, and then after that, I will probably have to get a guide just to make some advancements in the game. One thing I have noticed, because I picked Ice, is it Iceman the name of the boss, or the Ice boss? I think it was Iceman, right?
They're all man. I mean,
Okay,
that's
so yeah, so
going upon the theme.
okay, so I went after Iceman, and I noticed that your jumps are almost pixel perfect in this game, and that's probably going to be bad for Pete.
Yeah, that was actually one of its claim to fame with Mega Man is it had one of the best series of very one-to-one movement that made platforming pretty viable in the time. So your bosses were, I'm gonna go ahead and try to do this off the top of my head. We'll see if I can remember this. You had Iceman, you had Cutman, who had scissors on his head.
This isn't in
Guts.
order, is it?
No, I don't think
Okay.
so. I'm literally just trying to remember them all. Gutsman, who was like a fat robot. I guess Guts means fat. Um, there was Fireman, because every boss had a twin. Iceman, Fireman, Bomb Man, and what was his name? There was an electricity boss. But it wasn't very long because the names had to be four letters. If you can't catch that, Gutsman, Iceman, Cutman, Bomb Man, all 4 letters or less because of the wonderful limitations of the NES. Same with Chrono Trigger. His name is misspelled in the game because you can only put 5 letters in. What was his name? I think it was like Elec Man, something like that. Something ridiculous. But they are all the robots, and then of course the infamous Dr. Wily, who is final
Was it?
boss.
Andy wants to know if it was Shockman or Elecman.
I think it was Elecman. I think that's the right one. It was something ridiculous that you had to know what his power was to intuit what his name meant.
I am Elecman. You will elect me as the next president.
There were some other bosses later on, but those are your initial bosses, if I remember right. I might be missing one, but I guess we'll figure it out next week.
Or 2 weeks.
Sure,
2 weeks.
sure somebody will correct me if I'm wrong, and I will get crap for it.
That's part of being a podcaster. You get crap for all sorts of shit. So yeah, we don't have a set date for our recordings yet. We're doing this one on Sunday night, but that's not going to work for me in the coming weeks as I'm in a Sunday night hockey league starting next week. So we'll have to figure something out, and we'll let people know via either our Facebook page or Twitter. If you're not following us, you should be.
Wait, is this the NHL '94 league, or are we playing?
No. This is my RL league. This is my IRL league. I go out and I pretend that I can play hockey when in reality I suck at it. But that's okay because former NHL players go out and they try to play against people like me, and make me look like shit. There are actually two in my league. Randy Cunningworth, who's in his 50s now, he has also been head coach of the Montreal Canadiens, and he is in my league. That's terrific. And the first guy from Rochester to get in the league, I forgot his name, also plays, and he basically can turn it on and turn it off when he wants to, so he'll score just enough points for his team to win. He's one of those dicks.
That's very kind of him, I guess.
Yeah, Cunningworth isn't like that. Cunningworth is just out there. He can't keep up anymore. He still makes tape-to-tape passes the length of the ice, but he can't keep up anymore, and he's very encouraging, and he doesn't play you like an asshole. If he realizes you're not a very good player, once in a while he'll just let you get by him so you can have a chance on his goalie. This is after they have a 4-0 lead or so, but he doesn't play like a dick.
He's going to win, but...
He's not the one scoring. He lets the other players on his team score, so at least there's that. And he only fired his slap shot a couple times the one game I played with him, which is nice. Instead of, I had one game, I was literally laying 5 feet in front of a guy. He slap shotted it into my cage and my mask. That was nice of him. This is the same guy who later called a girl on another team fucking see you next Tuesday, so yeah.
Classy dude.
Yeah. Anyway, so, his fantasy says, so basically the point of this league is just to fuck with you. Yeah, pretty much. To fuck with me and try to get me out of the 10th of a ton club. That's the other goal.
Yeah, I actually found myself hitting 250 last week, so I've been jogging quite regularly.
Were you jogging by it? Never mind.
Yes, I am jogging.
Okay. So if anyone wants to reach us after this podcast, I think it actually went really well for our first podcast together.
Yeah, absolutely.
You can catch us at returnoftheretro.com. We'll soon have fan forums provided by our network. That'll be nice. But as of right now, there's a comment section where you can comment on Chrono Trigger and let us know what you think. You can reach us via Twitter at returnretro. On Facebook, we're facebook.com/returnoftheretro. On twitch.tv, if you're watching live, you know where we are. But if you're not, you can catch us next time at twitch.tv/returnoftheretro. On YouTube, where we're going to put this the video version of this podcast, it'll be youtube.com/returnoftheretropod. And you can email us at hosts@returnoftheretro.com. And RM Anchor, who I'm not sure who you are, buddy, but I appreciate you coming. He says, well done, guys. I'm not sure if maybe you just picked it up because you saw Chrono Trigger and Twitch. Let us know how you found us, please, so we can pursue that and find more people. And in case you didn't hear at the beginning of the show, we are part of the Geek Insomnia Network. Oh, he did. He found us by seeing that we were playing Chrono Trigger, and stuck around for the show once he got here. I really appreciate that. Tell your friends about us, please. We're brand new. This is our first episode, and we'd love to have a bunch of people check us out. Anyway, we're part of the Geek Insomnia Network. We are happy that they're letting us be the old worn cog in their steampunk spaceship. And special thanks to Tim Bray on freesound.org for our theme song. He doesn't know we took it, but it's part of the Creative Commons license, so we can go ahead and play it when we'd like to. Anything you got for the...
source.
Yeah, I love open source. Thank you very much, Android and Linux and anything else that's open source. Anything you got for the people?
No, I think you covered it pretty well. We'll be back in 2 weeks, and hopefully so will you.
See you, everybody.